Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls Podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more.
I'm Lexi.
I'm Nicole.
And today is our episode 8 deep dive of A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas, where we're covering chapters 56 through 59. Yay! It's a holiday episode. Happy Winter Solstice, everyone. As always, let's start with our content warnings. While today's discussion focuses on chapters 56 through 59 of Silver Flames, all of these episodes include spoilers for the entire ACOSF series. These deep dives do not, however, have spoilers for the rest of Sarah J. Maas' series, except at the end of every episode with our Maasverse Madness segment, where we give a big spoiler warning for the other Maasverse books before continuing our conversation with Crescent City and /or Throne of Glass connections.
So with all that said, if you don't know why Asriel's gift to Nesta makes us weep, then please go finish the book. We will be here when you're done.
Next up, we of Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
Mating, sex. Lots of it. And we're going to be going through it thrust by thrust. So do be mindful of those little listening ears.
Oh my God. Additionally, we are so excited to see you at upcoming live events.
We are going to be dancing the night away at the Fantastique New Year's Eve drop party in Denver, Colorado.
We are partnering with Barnes & Noble for the Onyx Storm Midnight Release Party on January 20th, 2025 in Glendale, Colorado.
We have so much in store as podcast partners at Romantasy BookCon in Los Angeles in February 2025 and at Romantasy BookCon in Orlando, October 2025.
We'll also be featured guests at Enchanticon in St. Louis, Missouri, August 15th through 17th, 2025.
Links to all of these events and more are in the show notes.
And lastly, if you love Fantasy Fangirls and have been loving this ACOSF series journey we're on together, if you want more content, more community, more events, and just more all around, please check out our Patreon.
We have 3 membership tiers that you can join. Number 1, the Valkyries, which won't be called the Valkyries for much longer. These all are going to be changing very soon. The Valkyries includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As from Lexi and I, a book club, exclusive author interviews, community events, promo codes for live events, plus 20% off all merch. That is $5 a month. Or you can join the High Fae, which includes everything from the Valkyrie level, plus early access to ad-free episodes, our full episode outlines, and special voting privileges. That is for $10 a month. And last but not least, we have the Inner Circle, which includes everything from the first 2 tiers, plus more behind-the-scenes content, a welcome gift, giveaways, a private Discord channel. They also found out the name of the series we're covering 2 days early, and they also get their name shouted out on the podcast. That is for $25 a month.
Join the party at patreon.com/fantasyfangirls. The link is also, of course, in the show notes. And really and truly, friends, thank you so much for supporting us as we've turned this podcast into our livelihood. It's all because of you, and we really appreciate you.
And now it is time to dance. If you're not watching on YouTube, you are missing out today.
To kick off every episode, Nicole summarizes what happens in this stretch of chapters. So gather around, friends. We need an Inner Circle Debrief for Silver Flames, chapters 56 through 59.
Chapter 56, Montage! We learn that winter is coming. JK, it's actually already arrived. The cold isn't going to stop the Valkyries from training. Nesta has added dance classes to her daily schedule. And of course, her and Cassian are bangity banging like bunnies. Cue Nesta's list of top 10 positions with Cassian. Don't remember reading that in Cosmo. One day during her dance lessons, Nesta and Moore share a kind moment over what to wear for the ball. But Nesta is late for a very important date to the library. Someone is already there though, Emery, who oogles a little bit at Moore. Gwen brings her 2 friends a winter solstice present. It's paper! Chapter 21, specifically, of the new Valkyries book, featuring the Valkyries Reborn. Later that night, Nesta tries a small fire, and she sits all the way through it. Yay, Nesta! The house gives Nesta a winter solstice present, too, showing her smart house Pat's true Heart of Darkness. Chapter 57. It is a court of nightmares before Christmas, and everyone is making their grand jetés into the hall, including Feyre, who's doing one badass pregnancy announcement. But it's a season of giving, so Rhys and Feyre give Eris Nesta's maid dagger as a winter solstice present, which we have some tangoed emotions on. The real cha-cha shenanigans begins, and at the top of Nesta's dancing card is Eris's name. They are definitely the winners of Dancing with the Stars. Get it? Because stars with the night court. The crowd holds its breath and Gasp! Nesta completes the grand finale of the 12 spins combo. Nesta and Eris share a post-dance chat that is smooth as a samba. But hold on, someone's not feeling the rhythm of this connection. Cassian 2 steps on in, asking for a dance. And hey, homeboy can indeed keep up. Looks like that secret dance training with more really did pay off. Meanwhile, Eris sashays on over to the High Lord and Lady. It's clear he completely got caught up in Nesta's enchanting choreography. He wants Nesta as his bride in exchange for anything Reese wants. Looks like Nesta really fox-trotted her way into his heart. Chapter 58, dance puns are over.
Oh man, that was really good.
Chapter 58, it's holiday party time. And after some light conversation topics, like Elaine asking Nesta if she was bribed to come here, again, the presents begin. Most notable, Cassian getting spices. After 1 a.m, it's time to go Betty bye. But wait, Cassian isn't ready to call it a night yet. He visits Nesta's room in hopes of giving her her present. Let's hope this one doesn't get as waterlogged as last time. But no, he gives her a symphonia, filled with music from the Hewn City and her favorite taverns. Think That's What I Call Fae Music, Volume 1. But Nesta, knowing that she doesn't deserve this kind of love, tells him to take the present back, and the two begin to fight, in which Nesta tells Cassian that she doesn't deserve him. Cassian, however, is not here for this self-deprecating monologue. He shuts it down the old-fashioned way with a kiss that's so epic it could make Taylor Swift write a song about it. And bang, bang, bangity bang. I said it. You're mine, mine, bang. Let's just say the symphonia was not the only thing making music that night. Chapter 59, Rise and Shine, lovebirds. Nesta wakes up in Cassian's arm, feeling so chill she could have stepped out of the Calm meditation app. After some light cardio, Cassian glances at the clock. Oh shit! He's missing the snowball fight. And in true go fight, win energy, he runs out of the room without even so much as a goodbye kiss. Montage! Days pass, and without Cassian's sweet music, Nesta brings her music box to training every day for motivation. But feeling rather lonely without her bat boy to warm her up, she invites her friends for a sleepover. And after realizing they have a magic smart house at their disposal, bubble baths, mini Pegasuses, pistachio cake, it's more chaos than when the FFG moderators are let loose in the Discord. And in true Swiftie fashion, the girls seal their bond by making each other friendship bracelets. And bippity boppity boo, Nesta makes a wish on the charms, and they begin to glow.
Support for today's episode comes from iHerb. iHerb offers the best curated selection of wellness products at the best possible value with more than 50,000 products across a variety of categories such as supplements, sports nutrition, groceries, and beauty. This is your one-stop shop for all your health and wellness needs.
Plus, you can trust your products will arrive in first-rate condition because iHerb orders are shipped from climate-controlled fulfillment centers in the U.S. to ensure the quality of their products. And they ship to over 180 countries.
Products available at iHerb are sourced directly from the brands or authorized distributors in the US. There are no third-party sellers. This is so important when there are companies out there selling fake products and you have no idea what ingredients are in them. So iHerb does not allow third-party resellers on its website or mobile apps. Then, to top it all off, you get free shipping in the USA on purchases over $30, and they offer 24/7 customer support if you have any questions about your order.
The protein powder in my smoothie this morning? It's from iHerb. Do you see my eyelashes are eyelashing this morning? That's because I got eyelash serum from iHerb. And that's just 2 of the 45,000 things that I got from them. It is truly a one-stop shop for anything you need, from literally eyelash care to protein powder and beyond.
Our listeners get 22% off their first order when you use code FFG at iHerb.com/shop/FFG. Existing customers receive 15% off. That's 22% off your first order at iHerb.com/shop/FFG, and then use promo code FFG. Choose iHerb because wellness matters. All right, friends, it's time to step into the cauldron and discuss key insights, character analysis, lore, foreshadowing, theories, and so much more. Let's kick it off, like Nicole said, with a montage. A month passes and winter is here. Over the past month, the females continue their training in the cold, and Nesta and Cassian are still fucking on every surface of the house, but still no snuggles after sex. She wonders when he'll get bored of her, though it's clear neither of them can get enough of each other. Hey-oh. But the new addition to Nesta's routine is twice weekly dance lessons with the Morgan. Nesta is preparing for the winter solstice celebration in the Hewn City, where she'll dance with Eris and seduce him. So Mor is teaching her waltzes of Prythian, some of the Court of Nightmares, some of the Autumn Court, and others to the Fae in general. But more than anything, Nesta is loving this music. Like we discussed last episode with music coming back into Nesta's life, we are seeing just how much joy it truly brings her, how much it fills her cup. I love the little detail that they're using the Veritas orb so Mor can share the dance memories with Nesta. And Mor's memories have different feelings visibly associated with them. Like some of them are full of light, while others have darkness and sorrow around the edges. Mor never comments on them, which of course makes sense. These two are not friends. There's always been tension between them. Remember how Mor told Nesta that her vote was for them to dump her in the human realm at the beginning of the book? Yeah, they keep these lessons strictly about dance, speaking only as much as necessary. Honestly, the fact that these lessons never escalate to a big fight is a testament to Nesta's growth.
I do want to point out, it's slightly funny to me that the Veritas orb in ACOSF is described as a gift of Mor's first ancestor, and it's only been used a few times in Prythian's history. That's like thousands and thousands of years, and it just makes me giggle a little bit of how casually they're using it in this scene.
I absolutely agree with you, and I love seeing these magical objects that are used the way that they should be used, honestly.
Yes. Conversation shifts to Mor asking Nesta what she's wearing to the Court of Nightmares ball. And because this is the first time we've really seen Mor be friendly-ish with Nesta and vice versa, since a different conversation happened about dresses back in ACOWAR. When Mor complimented one of Nesta's dresses back then, being warm, open, and inviting, just like she is with the rest of the Inner Circle, Nesta shot back with, quote, "Fortunately for you, I don't return the sentiment." And it was very much a shut down, we are not going to be friends moment. And now here is Mor reaching out again because she does start off this conversation. So I am going to give Mor some props for that. She's even offering to look around at dress options for Nesta to wear that would make her feel comfortable and not be too revealing. This is a major step forward for these two, including Morgan telling Nesta, please just call me Mor. Like, Amryn is the only person who calls me that, and she's a cranky bastard, which Nesta takes her up on both out loud and in her head for the rest of this book, not shutting her down like she has in the past.
I really love, like you were saying there, how Amryn is the only one who calls her Morgan because she's a cranky old bastard. And Nesta is like consciously like, I don't want to be like that. I want to be more open and welcoming. And so she chooses to call her Mor, when I think that even just a few months ago, she would have been like, well, that fits me too, so I'm just going to keep calling you Morgan.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I also wonder if one of the reasons Mor is, for lack of a better term, reaching out her hand is because she saw that Cassian wants to learn how to dance so he can keep up with Nesta. And she was like, oh, this is something really special for my brother, basically. And I think that there's a part of her who maybe consciously or subconsciously, I hope consciously, said, maybe I need to give this girl another chance.
That's what I like to think. She's giving Nesta these dance lessons, but she's also secretly giving Cassian lessons too so he can impress Nesta. This means that Mor's not being shunned away. She gets to feel part of bringing them together in her own small way, and that sense of connection is very important for Mor.
Yes.
Mor joins Nesta in the library because the work she's doing for Rhys and Farah in Valahan requires some research, and Clotho has been looking into it for her. Research? We know that Mor's primary role in Valahan has been trying to convince its king and queen to agree to the new treaty, or at least trying to keep them from literally stopping another war to gain more territory. I wonder if this research applies to something to tempt Valahan to stay peaceful or something else about the continent. I'm so desperate for clues about what's next with the continent conflict, so I'm holding out hope that this is like a tiny Easter egg.
I also have a crack theory, and that is we assume, a heavy emphasis on the assume, that the Valkyries are originally from Valahan because of the Valhalla and the Valahan similar language from Norse mythology. We also know that Valahan has a king. We know that the Valkyries had a king from last episode when Amber just dropped that in half a sentence. Could Mor be doing research on getting the king in contact with this new round of Valkyries? I highly doubt it because I have no idea where this would lead plot-wise. Would the Valkyries go to Valahan? It doesn't really make any sense, but it's just an interesting crack theory that came into my head when I was maybe a cider in last night doing some last minute additions to the outline.
I'm sticking to my belief that the king of Valahan is not the same as the Valkyrie king, but the Valkyrie's territory was close to Valahan, and Valahan was one of the territories that absorbed where the Valkyries had been.
Okay, I can vibe with that. I want more information. I really want more information on this.
Don't we all?
Don't we all?
But this research rabbit hole is not supposed to be the point of this scene, because Nesta notices how close Moore and Clotho are, how warm and loving they are in their greeting to one another. The library has welcomed Nesta into its sanctuary, and it's interesting for her to see someone who she has in the past heartedly disliked and who definitely has felt the same way toward her to be such a bright light here. There's so much history to Moore's greeting, quote, "my old friend," and the embrace between her and Clotho. Remember that Moore was the one who found Clotho after she was attacked, and Moore is the one who brought her to Reese. Then it was Moore who hunted down the males who hurt Clotho and got revenge against them. We can assume that she killed them. And it was Moore who stayed in the library with Clotho and helped her heal as much as she was able, physically, but more so emotionally too. Moore was by Clotho's side as she processed her trauma and started to move forward. They truly are dear friends. And here Nesta is on the outside looking in. She feels ashamed because she knows it's because of how she's behaved toward Moore for Moore to treat her as poorly as she has. Moore really is a kind and loving person to everyone but Nesta and the people in the Court of Nightmares. And Nesta identifies that she's the problem here, not Moore. Honestly, I might argue that there's more to it with the Cassian dynamic, but overall, yes.
I also think it's very telling of where Nesta is in her healing journey that she is able to self-reflect like that and say, oh, I am the problem, without shaming, without getting angry at herself, without getting angry at Moore, without getting angry at the world. She's just acknowledging as is. It's very reminiscent to what it is with mind stilling. It's not saying, oh, my body's tight, or oh, like getting mad at yourself. It's just acknowledging where you are right now. And I feel like that's what she's really incorporating in the rest of her life. And I'm just so proud of her. Someone else is in the library, though. Wanting to see where Gwen and Nesta work, Emery is in the middle of paying them a visit when her eyes catch on Moore. Quote, "I always forget how beautiful she is. She never comes to Windhaven these days." Nesta could have sworn pink stole over Emery's brown cheeks. The theories begin! We know from Emery when she invited Nesta in for lunch that she mentions she has no mate and really no one to bother her. But Nesta notes in that scene how there seems to be more to the story than that. I think we are both 100% in agreement that this is planting the seeds for Emery and Moore to eventually be together. Later at Winter Solstice, Moore will mention how she would love to train like the Valkyries once all the business at Valahan is over, and she'd like to train with the Valkyries Reborn. I wonder if this is how Emery and Moore are going to get together in a future book, by training together.
I'm shipping them so hard. I'm not shipping many people in the series who have not already gotten together really hard, but except these two. I just want them to be happy together.
Me too. With her eyes no longer on the golden ray of sunshine, Emery and Nesta walk to level 5 of the library, and Emery starts to hear her dead father yelling at her. We've known from slight comments here and there that Emery's relationship with her father was strained at best and very abusive at worst, especially because he was the one who clipped her wings, and he did a shoddy job at that. It will not be until the blood rite that we will learn just how far that darkness goes with the two of them. But here we're starting to understand how truly dark her past is with her father. And of course, the library is showing her some of that too, just like it did with Nesta, just like it does with some of the priestesses. The library is down here saying, I see who you are deep down because I am the same as you. It's got a weird way of showing it by saying, hey, here's this terrible person who was in your life. You see? We'll talk more about the library later, of course. So Nesta, seeing her friend needing a hand, links her arm with Emery's and leads them out of this lower level, quote, letting some of her warmth leak into her friend. I just love that little note about how much Nesta has grown. She was never outright hostile towards Gwen and Emery, but she was definitely not warm. They've become family to her, and here she is trying to warm up her friend. I'm just so proud of Nesta.
Gwen returns with a special gift for her two friends. It's the manuscript to the penultimate chapter from Meryl's book on Valkyries. And what's this chapter about? The rebirth of the Valkyries, all about what Nesta, Gwen, Emery, and the other females are doing. Gwen even got to write it herself.
We learned that this is chapter 21, and of course, me going into my conspiracy brain, I'm like, oh, let me check chapter 21 in this book. And it's where we learned that Fae-vorite is pregnant. And then I was like, oh, the penultimate chapter, that has to be where she saves Fae-vorit's life. It's not. It's a conversation with Eris, so it's not at all related. I've looked even in chapter 21s of the rest of the ACOSF series, and it's nothing major. So This is just chapter 21 and the penultimate chapter.
I'll be honest, it's not a very long book if there's only 22 chapters. Maybe we've just been reading really long books though lately.
I'm rereading CC3 right now and there's like 100 plus chapters in it. So I hear chapter 21 and I was like, oh.
This Valkyrie book's inclusion of them and what they're achieving is so moving for Nesta and Emery. As Gwyn assures them, quote, "Our stories are worth telling." In other words, they are worthy. Their efforts, struggles, and victories are being recognized and immortalized on these pages alongside the legacy of the Valkyries. Their training isn't just a personal goal and triumph. What they're doing is bigger than themselves, and it's for the history books. Their own legacy is being preserved so that future generations can find inspiration in them just like they are finding in the original Valkyries. This chapter about them validates their shared journey and growth, highlighting how far they've come since the beginning of their training, physically and emotionally. It's such a touching scene that reflects Gwyn's thoughtfulness and gives these three friends the opportunity to celebrate what they're doing together as a unit.
That night, Nesta decides to take the leap and asks the house for a fire, just a tiny one, and instantly, the house accommodates. I love that it literally says the word instantly. It's almost like Smart House Pat has been waiting for this exact moment. A few times, the logs crack and Nesta flinches. But what is massively different about this time is that as her mind tries to pull her into these old memories and get her anxiety to rise, she stays grounded, or she at least tries to stay grounded in the here and now. She does this by breathing, by reminding herself why she's doing this act of bravery in the first place, because she owes it to herself to no longer live in fear and dread. It really goes back to what Cassie was saying at the lake. Everything that you are giving to everyone else, you deserve to give yourself too. She owes it to herself to no longer live in this fear and dread. Quote, "So Nesta could try. Right now, she'd face this fire." Again, there's that word, try. As the logs continue to pop, Nesta starts a mantra of sorts, telling herself that, yes, this is a fire. Yes, it reminds you of your father, but it is not him, and you can get through this. Note that she's not shaming herself for getting worked up about the fire or for being, quote, unfixable. She is instead accepting where she is in this moment. This is going to be a really big theme for the remainder of Nesta's healing journey, is self-acceptance. It's not fixing, it's accepting her imperfections as is. She's saying that she's anxious. She's saying that it reminds you of this horrible time in your life. And one of my favorite techniques is when you are overwhelmed or being pulled into these really anxiety-inducing states, I'll say for lack of a better term, is I actually learned this technique a long time ago. It's like you put your hand on your heart and you say out loud, "I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm loved." And you basically say it over and over again. Thank you very much, Mel Robbins, for teaching me that technique and calming down my fight or flight and making me cry many, many times. But that is what Nesta's doing here, for lack of a better term. She's reminding herself, I am safe. And then something really, really beautiful happens. She starts to cry and feels this rush of pride fill her chest. Quote, "She had not failed. She had faced it and survived. She might not have saved the world or led armies, but she had made this small initial step." The importance of this moment cannot be understated. She has called herself a failure for like 55 chapters. And here is her saying that she's not one. She's overcome something so deeply traumatic that she thought was going to have a hold on her forever. And I love this note, how it might not be this grand, huge thing, but it is a step forward. And this is what a healing journey is about. It's not the monumental moments of life and death where you save 50 people from a burning building or whatever. It's sitting here, staying here through something that previously she would not have been able to. And I love that she celebrates her progress here. Something that we could all take notes on.
Absolutely. I love the idea of taking just one step forward toward all of our best selves. And Element helps us do that on a daily basis. If you're familiar with Fantasy Fangirls, as I'm sure most of you are, we're on episode 8 of the 5th book we're covering, you know that we love Element. Element helps anyone stay hydrated without the sugar and other dodgy ingredients found in popular electrolyte and sports drinks.
Element is a zero-sugar electrolyte drink mix and sparkling electrolyte water born from the growing body of research revealing that optimal health outcomes crumbs occur at sodium levels 2 to 3 times the government recommendations. Each stick pack or sparkling can delivers a meaningful dose of electrolytes free of sugar, artificial colors, and other unhealthy ingredients. Element is formulated for anyone on a mission to restore health through hydration, and it is perfectly suited for athletes, folks who are fasting, those who are following keto, low carb, or whole food or paleo diets.
Even though summer is over, I am still obsessed with all of the citrus flavors that they have. Citrus, grapefruit, orange, those are my top favorites now. Mango chili is always a classic staple. As it starts getting real chilly and snowy, I'm so excited to try the hot cocoa with the chocolate salt mix. Oh, I'm so excited. It's also delicious.
Right now, Element is offering a free sample pack with any purchase. That is 8 single serving packets free with any Element order. This is a great way to try 8 of the Element flavors and share Element with a salty friend. Get yours at drinklmnt.com/FFG. This is only available through our link. You must go to drinklmnt.com/FFG. Also, try out the new Element Sparkling, a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling electrolyte water.
Immediately following the small win of Nesta's, she wipes her tears and finds that the house has made a trail of evergreen twigs leading to her now open door.
Evergreen twigs, you say? Do I hear a plant watch? Evergreen resembles life and hope, but they are also a big symbol for the holiday season, so I absolutely think that's what they're supposed to be here.
It's asking Nesta to follow the trail down to the library, to not be afraid as it keeps taking her down, down, down the levels and toward the bottom with the wall of darkness. Remember the last time Nesta ventured this low was when she and Thera were being chased by Hybern's ravens. Bryaxis might not be down here anymore. We don't know where Bryaxis is, but the pit still holds a frightening darkness, as Emery experienced earlier that day, and as Nesta and many other priestesses have felt when they go to the lower levels of the library. But tonight is different. With the house's silent assurance, Nesta steps into the darkness of the pit. Quote, the heart of the world, of existence, of self, the heart of the house. The house is showing Nesta that the darkness of the pit is the heart of the house. Nesta realizes, quote, but your darkness, you are trying to show me, show others, who you are deep down, what haunts you. You are trying to show them all those dark, broken pieces because the priestesses and Emery and I were the same as you. This gift of knowledge helps Nesta no longer be afraid of this darkness. She embraces the, quote, beautiful fractured darkness, and in doing so, embraces all of the house. And she is so moved that the house shared this with her. So friends, we have to ask, what the hell does this scene mean? Besides indeed taking it at face value that the darkness of the pit is the heart of the house. I know we've all kind of been like, okay, I'll accept that and just kind of move forward here. We know that when Nesta arrived at the House of Wind, she wished for a friend. And by making this wish, she made the house come alive with her power. During Nesta's upcoming conversation with Amren at Starfall, Nesta will note that her power only creates terrible things. Think about the made weapons and all of the negative associations that Nesta has with her dark, terrible power. At Starfall, Nesta will say that the darkness of the house hasn't made an appearance in weeks, being its last appearance is the present time frame we're currently covering. Nesta will reflect that maybe the darkness is being managed, that maybe now that Nesta knows about the house's darkness and doesn't judge it, makes the darkness easier to manage. To which Amren will agree, quote, that's the key, isn't it? To know the darkness will always remain, but how you choose to face it, handle it. That's the important part. Accepting the darkness and understanding that without darkness, there cannot be light and happiness is a running theme throughout the series. The house's heart of darkness is an embodiment of this symbolism. Even the darkest places can be sources of strength, life, and connection. We cannot let ourselves be consumed by the darkness. Instead, we need to focus on the good, because the struggle of this darkness within ourselves makes the joy all the more worthwhile, which is exactly what we were talking about during the lake scene for Nesta. It is literally the theme of this book. That's even what we were saying just a moment ago with her having the fire, which is why the house then shows her this darkness after Nesta overcame that for herself and really is starting to process that self-acceptance, even with the darkness as a passenger. When the house came alive thanks to Nesta, it became sentient. It also holds its own darkness there in its heart, in the pit of the library, and is reaching out to the priestesses, Emery and Nesta. Because their pasts may look different, but they all carry their own darkness and can connect with one another through their shared trauma as they rise above it. Now, what kind of trauma does the house have? I'm chalking that part up to magic and it being sentient. The house's heart resides in a place where survivors confront and overcome their pain. It is a place of nurturing and healing, even if the darkness still trails. And in this moment when the house shows Nesta its darkness, it is also showing her its vulnerability, creating a stronger bond between Nesta and her first friend, the House of Wind.
I also want to point out that this might be, we don't have a confirmation of this, but this might be a stand-in for someone who was in Sarah J. Maas's life when she was going through her deep anxiety, depression journey that she wrote this book in tandem with. And I wonder if either the house was someone who was in her life who had a very similar impact on her, where it was very much of a, you're not alone. Look, there's other people who are experiencing darkness too. You are not alone in this journey. Or if it was who she wanted or needed to have at the time. So I also think that that's the symbolism of the house, is a partner in overcoming trauma.
Absolutely.
We are back in the Court of Nightmares during the holiday season. The court is decorated in its usual adornments of evergreen and black candles with food galore and a band hidden off in the corner. Each night of the 3-night winter solstice celebration in the Court of Nightmares have a different themed ball. But tonight we have a mission.
Keep going.
I'm trying. You're making me laugh. Friendly reminder that since Tamlin saw Eris talking to Nesta and Cassian in the Court of Nightmares, he's been worried that their alliance is going to fall through. If you are not watching on YouTube, you are making a terrible decision. Please do so. Solely for Lexi right now. And who knows what Eris might do if he needs to secure himself against his father finding out his plans. So our crew has to give Eris a big, grand gesture so that he comes back into their good graces, and so that they can remind him that they have the things he wants, he needs to get his goals, like the idea of being able to secure Nesta. So she will dance with him and seduce him back into the Court of Nightmares' hands. Although, despite this literally being the plan, when it actually works, Feyre is irate and shocked, stating that he only had a few dances with her and suddenly he wants her to be his wife. Sure, it might be a little bit more escalated than they thought, but like, Feyre, why are you surprised?
She's got pregnancy brain. She forgot.
Honestly, though.
But that's not the only significance of tonight. It's baby announcement time, everybody. Rhys, Feyre, and the sisters make a grand entrance. Feyre in particular, with her dress of sparkling black panels, similar to the one she wore for her first visit when we got the ACOSF version of the throne scene, and it shows off her baby bump with her baby-rich scent filling the air. Quote, Feyre may as well have been a goddess of old, crowned and glowing, her belly swollen with life. Meanwhile, Rhys next to her has a cold violence rippling off him as they walk toward their thrones on the dais. His expression is of smug male pride. He is a primal Fae male protecting his mate and their unborn child, so don't fuck with him. Kier looks torn between anger and shock, probably thinking, oh great, they've got an heir. We speculated before if Rhys was to die, whether the land would pass the High Lordship title to Kier. I don't think so, because he doesn't seem strong enough in his power, but there's some inconsistency about the chosen heir and strength, as we all know. Probably safe to assume Rhys and Feyre's baby would be super, super powerful, like, Jack or something. Another movie I've been watching a lot lately.
I love that movie.
And then Eris's face is carefully neutral because he's always playing that political game. I think that this was a very smart event to reveal Feyre's pregnancy. It puts the Night Court in charge of how the news releases to several of their close ally enemies so they can control the narrative of strength and grace. The two Archeron sisters follow the High Lord and Lady's entrance, symbolizing that they are indeed a part of the royal family. Hey Eris, you see that? You see how valuable and powerful Nesta is? Hey, yeah! They're showcasing how the Archeron sisters aren't just part of the Night Court. They are a united front of power, which is very important right now during this political game they're playing to ensure a strong alliance with Eris. Both sisters are also dressed in Night Court black, but Cassian notes how black looks ridiculous on Elaine. The colors wear her versus the other way around and sucks the life from her. Elaine may be troubled by the hewn city, but she insisted on coming tonight. She doesn't want to be coddled. She's part of this court after all.
It's time for Fit Watch. Elaine wears a modest long sleeve black gown with her hair down, only pinned out of her face with 2 twin combs of pearl. And it looks wrong. I am convinced that this is a huge foreshadowing neon sign moment for us that, hey, Elaine, while wanting to be part of this court, she does not belong in the night court. Where does she belong?
Spring or day or even day. Yeah.
Day.
But like
Spring
she just like
sure.
comes to life with all of the colors and all of this language about her and the concept of life and light and color and growth. It just really fits with the spring court. We could definitely make a case for the day court as well. Yes. But as we go through this deep dive, I am really leaning more and more toward the spring court. And not that she's going to end up with Tamlin. I really don't believe that. I understand how people do believe that. And if the story works out well, I would be along for that journey. But I'm leaning more and more toward her being an independent woman or an independent fae who becomes the high lady of the spring court.
You and I are so in alignment on that. I think Lucian's going to go off to rule day, or at least be not apprentice, but at least be under Helian's care in day.
The heir,
I do think Tamlin's going to die, and Elaine is going to take over as High Lady of Spring, and I think Nesta is going to take over as High Lady of Dusk.
By the way, I would love to get Az's POV in this moment with Elaine's entrance to see if he feels the same as Cassian about Elaine, because we'll certainly talk about his POV thoughts about her soon, actually in a follow-up episode later this week. Cassian is definitely biased in his POV looking at Elaine and specifically Nesta with her grand entrance. Oh, I love it.
More Fit Watch. Nesta, when talking with Moore, was upfront about her not wanting to wear anything too revealing, like, for instance, Feyre with her black panels and Moore with her red. So instead, Nesta's hair is braided back in her typical crown fashion with a tiara of black stone and sapphire spikes sitting atop her head. She has kohl around her eyes with the cat eyes sharp enough to kill a man and a deep red lip, looking like the queen of the night, which brings our queen count to 19. But then there's her dress, a skin-tight velvet bodice with straps so thin that they might as well not be there, and then a V-neck that plunges down basically to her navel where a small sapphire lays. She has full black skirts that ripple through the silence as she walks towards the front of the dais. I want this dress. I want it.
The fan art of this scene just always takes my breath away. I love it.
And then there's Cassian's outfit. He's in his typical black armor, and he brushed his hair. That was his grooming for the evening.
Rhys has quite the solstice present for Eris, the dagger that Nesta made. Eris immediately senses its power and how there's flame in it. Understandably, he's like, why are you giving me this extremely powerful magical weapon? Feyre answers that Eris faces enemies that exist outside the usual rules of magic, so it's only fair for him to have a weapon that operates outside those rules too. This reply cements that this weapon is indeed May, which, record scratch for Eris, the Night Court has been in possession of a made weapon?
Also, they're just giving this one away, which implies that they probably have more than one.
Rhys lies and says that it's a family heirloom, to which Eris responds, quote, "You possessed a made item and kept it hidden all these years during the war? AKA, you mean to tell me that you had a powerful weapon when we really could have used it against Hybern? Remember how legendary made weapons defeated the Daglan, the all-powerful near godlike creatures that enslaved all of them for 5,000 years? All I'm saying is I would be asking the exact same questions Eris. It's not like Rhys and Feyre can tell him the truth, especially when Eris has already threatened Nesta, remember that? Because Brialyn wants her and now she's about to seduce him. But also saying, I've had it all along, would make anyone be like, are you fucking serious? Rant over.
I do love that they specifically hid the unwrapping of this present from Kyr's sight. It's just a nice little fuck you to Kyr. I just love that little detail. But yeah, we're in agreement. This is
it's for plot purposes. That's what we'll chalk it up to. Yes.
This is a little bit of plot cauldron boil me moment, but we're not done with the scene. We'll keep going.
So anyway, zooming out a little bit, let's examine why Rhys and Feyre are giving Eris this made weapon. Because as Amryn stated very clearly a few episodes ago, these made weapons are a big deal and can literally change the course of history. Even just possessing one can make you more powerful than anyone else in the realm.
Or make you a high king. So who's to say that Eris isn't going to be like, let's go, bitches?
So, very good point. Why would Rhys give one to Eris, who might be their ally, but their relationship strength comes pretty much from blackmailing each other. Gifting Eris this maid dagger is a symbol of trusting him as a political player, trusting him as an important ally, and trusting him as a worthy leader of his people. The Autumn Court is technically on the verge of rebelling against the other Prythian courts because of Baron's alliance with Briallen. Eris might not be in charge yet, but he is heir to the Autumn Court. So once Baron is out of the picture, which hopefully will happen someday, my goodness, everybody just kill the guy. So when he's gone, so is this looming civil war. And it's important for overall peace that this new leader of the Autumn Court starts out strong with a plan in place to quell the issues his father started. This gift reinforces the Night Court's trust in Eris to be that strong leader of his people and a key ally in calming tensions to ensure that peace that they need so badly. This maid dagger also serves as a bargaining chip. Rhys is known for playing chess, and this is one more move of him doing so. By giving this powerful object to Eris, it's a subtle reminder of what he stands to gain from their alliance and what he might lose if he turns against them. Rhys believes that this risk of giving Eris a made weapon will pay off in the future with his loyalty, cooperation, and trust. But I really do believe Rhys and Farah are being honest when they tell Eris why they're gifting it to him too. Unique magic, Cauldron made magic, is at play with Briallen and the Crown, and Eris is in the thick of it, so he needs some kind of protection. As Rhys will say at the end of the chapter, he wants Eris to keep the dagger because he might need it. Later in this book, our crew will wonder if Eris having the made weapon on his person prevents him from being under the Crown's influence. I'm going to keep a close eye on proof of that because I have skimmed through it and tried to find it, and there was never any concrete evidence, at least I could see, but we haven't done that part of the deep dive yet. Because I really wouldn't be surprised if that is the case, which means they are giving this dagger to Eris to protect him from being influenced by the Crown's control if he gets into proximity of it, which is very likely because his father is allies with the Crown wielder. I've questioned this before, and I'll bring it up again. I'm very curious how this maid dagger can even be wielded by Eris in the first place. Its magic did not like Rhys, and we know others haven't been able to bend made weapons to their will, like Amarantha with Narbin. So does Eris have no problem with this dagger? Does he even try to wield it? I don't know. Maybe it's a Cauldron boil me moment.
Yeah, I'm going plot was chosen before lore in this moment. It is very clear that while we are in Cassian's POV, this is not something that was explained to the Inner Circle before Rhys and Feyre decided to do this. This is absolutely something that the High Lord and Lady planned behind their backs. I do wonder if they told Amren or not, but I don't think we're ever going to find out.
You would think so, because of how adamant Amren was about keeping these made weapons safe. But I also really don't see her saying, sure, give one to Eris.
But pulling this kind of surprise motherfucker shit is not out of character for Rhys and Feyre, especially with the Inner Circle, especially with Eris. Remember back in ACOWAR, Rhys convinced Eris to come to the Court of Nightmares and become their ally. This was all behind Mor, Feyre, Cassian, and Amren's back. The only person who knew what was happening was Azriel. Considering how that went, though, you would think that Rhys would have learned his lesson about keeping things from his friends, specifically when it came to Eris, but alas, Rhys is back into playing chess mode. He assumes that this made weapon will counteract any made objects that are attempted to be used on Eris, much like how the Dread Trove crown cannot be used on Nesta because she is Cauldron made. But Rhys and Feyre, why didn't you tell the crew? Like, why didn't you just say, hey, here's what we're thinking?
It's interesting how we don't really get Nesta's opinion on this. We are in Cassian's POV for this gift exchange, so all we get is that Nesta looks bored and she's more interested in the dance and music. I feel like she would have thoughts about this, or because Nesta's in on this political game, she gets it and is playing along.
I don't even think she's playing along. I think she is just that entranced by the music right now that she doesn't give a flying fuck about anything else that's happening. I think it's to show us just how truly entranced she is by music.
I can see
that.
But
it is a little counteractive to her character that we've known so far.
Yes, that's a good way of saying it.
Nesta does seem quite a bit distracted here, and to be honest, I 100% get it. But typically, whenever I'm distracted from what's going on, I low-key am thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner. But with Factor, I don't have to spend my time planning out every single meal. From breakfast to dinner and anything in between, Factor has easy, nutritious options to keep you fueled and feeling your best. Whether you like routine or mixing things up, Factor has you covered with 35 different delicious meals every week and over 60 convenient options that you can add to your box, like keto cookies, pressed juices, smoothies, my favorite. Don't let the shorter days slow you down. Stay energized with America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service.
Factor lets you do you. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Because Factor's meals are chef prepared and dietitian approved, you're going to love not only how Factor's meals taste, but also how they support your goals. And needless to say, Factor is cheaper than takeout and dining out. Put the money you save toward holiday shopping or reaching your financial goals.
Stay on your A game with quality ingredients you can trust and a quality you can taste in every one of Factor's fresh, never frozen meals. Use your time more efficiently. It's so important, especially in these dark months. Right now it's getting dark at like 5 p.m. and I'm like, is it 8? Is it my bedtime? I don't want to cook after it's dark. Let Factor take shopping, prepping, cooking, and cleaning up off your daily list of things to do.
Really, though, Factor is a lifesaver in our household because so often it's like, oh, shoot, I don't have any idea what's going to be for dinner. And boom, we got Factor. And it really is so delicious. Oh, my goodness. Head to factormeals.com/fantasyfangirl50 and use code fantasyfangirl50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code fantasyfangirl50 at factormeals.com/fantasyfangirl50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. But let's get to the music and dancing. Fae-vorite excuses herself from being a contender for the honor to dance with their ally Eris. And Elaine pretends to be interested, but Nesta is ready to shake her booty. I mean, do the waltz. I love how Eris' stare at his new dance partner is both of wariness and intent. He's so intrigued by Nesta and drawn to her radiating power and poise, but he's also kind of scared of her. Same.
Valid. The violins begin their sweeping song and Nesta falls right into the dance. And it's not really dancing, especially not for her. This is her soul coming alive, filling her blood so much that there's not enough space in her body to feel all that the music does to her. Quote, not enough space in her mind, her heart, her body, and all she could do to honor it, to worship it, was dance. Nesta has been chasing that feeling of getting out of her head. She's found it with training and mind stilling, but here it is a completely different playing field. This is pure, wild joy and her wholeheartedly yielding to it. It's a side of Nesta that we've really never seen before. Now, before we get too much further into the scene, I do want to address that some people find this dance scene, and honestly just this Court of Nightmare scene in general, to be weird or cringy.
What? I find it so beautiful how it describes someone being so captivated and in the moment, fully present and living their passion.
I honestly could not agree more. I've read some of the reasons behind people feeling like it's cringy or weird, and to those I say, that's fair that you think that way. I personally think that this is the most accurate description as to how music can feel in your body that I've ever read. Writing what music sounds like and feels like, I can't even fathom that level of challenge. And here is SJM describing the sweeping melody that ends with Nesta's perfected 12 spins, which she mentions throwing in doubles and triples. Y'all, as someone who got a third of a dance degree, that's fucking hard. I don't know how the hell she did that. You can see every moment of the scene from Nesta's head snapping back to Eris during the spin, to her raising up on her toes like she's reaching up at the sky, expanding every inch of her body to feel it in this movement. It is beautiful.
Nesta is in her element with her expert dancing, the music flowing through her and making her come to life in a way no one here seems to have ever seen before. She is a queen triumphant, successfully seducing Eris as she captivates him with her movement, skill, and joy. Eris, quote, knew what Nesta might become with a little ambition, the right guidance. He sees an equal, a female worthy of ruling beside him. I'm not saying he's looking for a high lady, but Eris doesn't want a female who's forced into marriage with him, whose light will be dimmed in his presence. He wants a partner who comes alive with him and who he can see a fulfilling future with. And that's what Nesta is enticing him with as they dance together. As the next song begins, the two begin a flirtatious conversation, with Eris being like, quote, trust Rhysand to keep you hidden away. Like the maid dagger in his personal collection, apparently. Sorry, I'm not going to open up that again. I find it so interesting how Eris defends himself, knowing that Nesta has heard the worst about his and Mor's history. He even says about Mor, quote, she knows the truth, but has never revealed it. He goes on to claim that Mor is afraid of the truth, and that the Night Court believes a version of events that is easier to swallow, where he is painted out to be the bad guy. We've talked a lot about this on the podcast already, so I won't go into it too much here. While I've been open about believing he did not touch Mor when he found her in the woods because it would have enacted a magical binding he knew she didn't want, I am so stumped about what else there is to it, because I wholeheartedly think that there are like 5 more layers to this incident. What is the truth that Mor is hiding and afraid of? Is it that Eris knows she prefers females?
I think that Eris prefers males, and somehow Mor knows his secret, and basically if she shares his, he will out hers. So it's almost like this like mutual destruction. Hence why he says she knows the truth but has never revealed it. I think that they're in some kind of mutually assured destruction thing, especially because later when Eris says, hey, that girl, I want her. Whatever you want, I'll take her. Cassian says in his mind, quote, from the shadows in his eyes, Cassian knew something more laid beneath the rash offer. I think that this is entirely political play and not for his heart. Obviously, I don't think he fell in love with Nesta after 2 dances, but I definitely think that there's a sexuality preference here at play.
Okay. Well, so he's also basically saying something similar to what Risa said in the past about wearing the bad guy mask. It's easier to be a version that people expect of you. And in this instance, Eris is cooperating with the Night Court and has never not been their ally, but they always still view him as the bad guy because that's the story they've always had. If their opinion changed or was even challenged, that would put them at odds with Mor's narration of Eris, which again makes me wonder what the heck is going on. I can't imagine Mor lying about what happened, but I do think she is blinded by how she paints him as the villain in her story.
Yep, agreed. From the moment this dance started, we've seen just how jealous Cassian is about this. Eris slides his hand over Nesta's waist, and you think that Cassian's about to rip out his fucking throat. But I don't think it's until Eris says that Nesta outshines Elaine's beauty and he strokes a hand down her back that's when Cassian storms over. Is this part of Cassian being, territorial over his mate, not a mate? Yes, of course. Is it part because she looks like a queen, as he will note during their fight on winter solstice, which yes, we will add another queen count, which brings us up to 20. And he knows that this queen-like woman standing before him deserves a prince like Eris, not a quote, low-born nothing like me. And he can't stand the sight of them together. But it is also because he sees how Eris is looking at her, like she is his to shape. Like Lexi said earlier, quote, it was a mistake to bring her here, to dangle her before Eris, the world. So enough is enough. Cassian comes up to the two of them dancing and says one word. Move, bitch. Get out the way.
Get out the way, bitch. Get out the way. I'm so proud of you for making that reference.
And while Eris pushes back and Rhys and Feyre are undoubtedly screaming at Cassian mind to mind to not ruin the ruse, Cassian takes Nesta's hand and nervously begins to dance. Nervous? Why nervous? Well. Cassian has been taking dance lessons too from Mor. And while it's not stated, I imagine that this is because he knows that Nesta is some kind of dance prodigy and he wanted to be able to keep up with her on the floor and share that moment with her too. This is the sweetest thing ever. Oh my God. Lessons or no, Cassian might not be as skillful a dancer as Eris, but some part of Nesta slides into place and softens at his nerves. And they smile at each other. True, full smiles of joy. These two have been dancing around each other, get it, for months, pretending like it's just sex, it's nothing more. And here they are in both a moment getting to share this pure joy together. In the Court of Nightmares, of all places. God, my heart!
Despite Cassian's cut-in, the Inner Circle's plan for Nesta to seduce Eris with her dancing works. Eris not only asks for Nesta's hand in marriage, he says he will give Rhys whatever he wants in exchange for Nesta. He'd even rather have her than the made dagger, which pause. He would rather have Nesta as his wife than a made weapon that is extremely powerful. He might not know that Nesta is capable of making objects, but he recognizes that she is more powerful than that object. I don't think that's the only reason he's interested in her. Like I said earlier, earlier, she comes to life and expresses passion and power in a way that does captivate him. Maybe, as you're saying, Nicole, to fit with your theory, not in a sexual, loving kind of way, but just in a partner kind of way, where he really wants that as a partner there. But he does know what a treasure she is, not just in looks or dance skills, but in the political gain that she would personally bring to the table as his partner. Eris does, however, say that he has his reasons for wanting Nesta so badly that he'll offer Rhys anything. And like you were saying earlier, there were shadows in his eyes, and Cassie knows that there's something more beneath that rash offer. I know that you have your theory, but I'm really wondering what in the world else this could possibly mean. I wonder if it's something specific about Nesta, but I also don't know if it's tied to her power, like he knows that she has the power of the Cauldron, for instance. I keep thinking about how protective Eris is of his own mother and how sad her life has been with his father, but it's not like he's saving Nesta from the same fate. So I do strongly believe that it might be his sexuality, but I'm trying to think of other possibilities, and I think it's one of those things that we just don't have that puzzle piece yet. A few days later on actual solstice, Nesta and Cassian stand outside the river house, and Nesta can't help but reflect on being in this exact same position, just at the townhouse instead, exactly 1 year ago. Last solstice, Feyre bribed her to come to the family celebration by paying for 3 months' rent. All evening, Nesta had kept to herself, sipping wine and feeling like she was looking through a window at this happy family. The night ended with Cassian chasing her down the snowy street, and she told him to leave her alone, which led Cassian to throw her gift into the Sidra. The dark cloud of last year's holiday hangs over Nesta here, and she's haunted by bad memories and her old self. She has grown so much since then. Yet, as we've always said, the healing journey is not linear. And it's hard not to feel like the past is looking her in the face and reminding her and everyone else of who she used to be, especially when she is already being judged by this family, admittedly, often for good reason. I can really appreciate how Nesta is nervous, and my heart aches for her. This is one more step of moving forward, having a positive family celebration.
However, not all the family is immediately in welcome this new version of Nesta mode yet. As Nesta is hanging up her and Cassian's coats, Elaine comes over to her, her eyes immediately wary, wondering if Feyre paid Nesta like she did last year. And when Nesta says no, Elaine tells her, quote, "Please don't upset Feyre. It's her birthday, first of all, and in her state." And before I get hyphy at Elaine, I do want to look at this through her POV. Last time she saw Nesta face to face for a longer period of time, they got into a huge fight. I'm not including the silence that they shared before they walked into their entrances in the Court of Nightmares, because it was silence. Nesta was hostile towards Elaine in the library back when Elaine sprang a visit on her. Nesta basically kicked her out and left Elaine in tears. Plus, I'm assuming that Elaine does know that Nesta told Feyre about the baby and all the drama that ensued. So I get why Elaine is proactively trying to keep the peace here and telling Nesta this. And all of that said, I understand why Nesta shoots back, "Oh, fuck you!" Nesta hasn't said anything to Elaine this encounter except confirming that Feyre didn't pay her and admitting that Cassian thought it would be good if she came to the Inner Circle winter solstice. And Elaine automatically thinks the worst of her.
Elaine is showing just how much she's living in the past when Nesta is trying to move on. Yeah, if I was Nesta, I would probably snap too, to be honest. I totally get why Elaine has this assumption about Nesta going into their interaction. But at the same time, she's part of the problem. Like I was saying, there's this dark cloud hanging over Nesta that she's already doing her best to work through. And Elaine basically rubs in her face that she's the same as before. As someone who has changed a lot too, when people treat me like, I'll call it the old Lexi, I get really upset because it's like, you're not even trying to get to know the evolved version of me. And I've worked really hard on not being that same old person that you think I am. So I'm right here with Nesta. Fuck you, Elaine.
Yeah, I'm going to give Elaine an L right now. This is a shitty thing to do. I also want to point out how different this is from Elaine when she talked about Nesta regarding the dancing story. There she was almost like misty-eyed when she thought about this version of her sister. And here she's just like, okay, make sure you don't upset Feyre and make sure we keep the peace. And Nesta's like, royally fuck you. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Lex. Elaine has a rather interesting reaction, however, from this snapping from Nesta. She laughs. Loudly and a lot. She says that Nesta has never said such a thing to her, which is true. Nesta has always protected Elaine, honestly, overly so. And it's no small secret that Elaine was #over it. But I imagine her saying that this is a good sign, isn't it? Which I'm not going to lie. This was really jarring. I never understood this until I literally had to in order to write this part of the deep dive.
Oh, really? I actually love this part. I know that we just gave Elaine an L, but while she still does get that L for what she said earlier, I love this reaction so much.
Interesting.
It's like Nesta's all horrified and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I can't believe I just said that. But this boiling over, it needed to happen between them. There was so much baggage, so much tension between these two sisters, and they can't dance around their problems anymore. Now that Nesta boiled over and Elaine laughed about it, they can move forward in their relationship together.
Well, and I also imagine her saying that this is like a good sign is because she is so relieved that Nesta's not treating her like she's breakable.
Yes.
So this outburst of laughter is just like this immediate tension deflator.
As the celebration is underway, Nesta is engaging in conversation and offering sincere smiles, though she is still reserved and figuring out her place in this close-knit group of people she has a lot of baggage with. I love how she approaches Azriel when she notices he's keeping to himself by the door. It's clear he doesn't want to be here and he won't sit by the fire because Elaine is over there. And of course, her mate is also present in this room, and Azriel really doesn't want to be anywhere near Elaine because there are things going on between them. As we learn in the bonus episode, that actually has him missing family dinners more often than not because he's avoiding her. He's here now, though, because it would hurt Rhys if he didn't show up, and he believes holidays are important to bring loved ones together. I'm really loving his and Nesta's developing relationship. I know you'll talk about that soon with the gift that he gives her. She touches him as a sign of solidarity, understanding why he doesn't want to be near the fire. Quote, his secret to tell, never hers.
It is time to play another round of Who Gets What for Winter Solstice. Let us start with Feyre because it is also her birthday and her presents are so bountiful, almost glaringly so. Y'all, be a little bit more cryptic. It's like they're treating it like her last holiday/birthday ever. We don't know what any of those gifts are though, so we're going to move on to more. The only thing we know that she gets is a silver comb and brush set from Cassian with her name engraved on it. That's a very good gift from Moore. Elaine gets from Lucien a pair of pearl earrings that she almost too quickly discards, and she only barely thanks him. Elaine! She doesn't owe him anything. I get it. I just really want Lucien to be happy, and I really don't like how she's treating him.
I agree. I'm honestly a little surprised Lucien is here in the first place for Winter Solstice. Yeah. However, based on what he says about Dorian and Vassa being at each other's throats, maybe he needs a break from them.
Possibly. See, that gives me their enemies to lovers vibes. Like maybe not enemies to lovers, but like forced proximity or like the tension is building. I don't know. It gives me Dorian and Vassa secret love story vibes, but I also feel like Lucien and Vassa get that. I don't know. I'm still on my throuple. I did finally finish Bonded by Thorns 4 though, so I took a little bit of a break from YQ, so it did definitely go down.
I was wondering, you haven't mentioned it the last like 4 episodes.
Don't worry, there's the Pucking Around book that's definitely on my TBR though. I'm on a romance kick right now. Since we don't know what Amren, Rhys, Lucien, or Varian all get for Winter Solstice, we're going to move on to Cassian because he gets an ancient manuscript on warfare from Rhys. That's good gift. From Moore, he gets an ugly green sweater that makes his skin look jaundiced. From Amren, he gets a set of spices so he doesn't have to suffer when he goes to Illyria. Looks like the Archer on Spice Trade didn't make it to the Illyrian Mountains, but we'll move on. From Elaine, he gets a travel mug that is able to keep his tea warm for hours. That's a good gift right there. I love that. Azriel gets him a bag of beef jerky because he literally didn't know what else he could think of that Cassian would enjoy more. And from Feyre, he gets a painting of Az, Rhys, and himself touching Ramiel during the blood rite. This is also a beautiful piece of foreshadowing for us readers for Emery and Gwen to touch Ramiel at the end of the book. And last but not least, Nesta gets from Feyre and Elaine a year's worth of books, heavy air quotes on year's worth, because it's capped at 300 books, which as Cassian notes, will never be enough for Nesta.
First of all, I would also probably say 300 books for somebody who is an avid book reader, because that's like almost a book a day. Oh, not quite, but close enough.
Yeah. That's like a few books that take you 2 days.
Exactly.
Like maybe if you're reading Crescent City, it might take you 2 days to read it.
It's also a little nod where Cassian's like 500 would be better. How well he knows Nesta. Not necessarily that he knows her so much better than her sisters, but at least he knows her so intimately that he knows how many books she would really need.
And Azriel, he gives Nesta a reading light so that she can read at night without having to squint. Now note, he gives her a gift and she is immediately like, I didn't get you anything. And he's like, I don't care. That's fine. I just wanted to give you this.
Yeah, she was really embarrassed by not having a gift for anyone. Gift giving is not her love language.
No.
And she feels so self-conscious about that. And here Az is being like, it's okay. I don't care. Like, that's not what this is about, sort of thing. And I love them.
This act of kindness makes Nesta proceed to leap into Azriel's arms and hug him, saying, thank you. This, oh my God, this part will never make my heart just not explode out of my chest. And honestly, Cassian has a very similar reaction. He's seeing his brother and the woman he has completely fallen in love with, even though he hasn't admitted it to himself.
Or in the book he ever says, I love you, which caused the fandom to have some serious questions.
He's seeing his brother and his girl share such a friendly moment. It's so special. Take notes, Resand. We will go over Cassian's gift to Nesta shortly. You hear that? That's Valaris' store where everyone gets their gifts for winter solstice. Creating really great retail experiences is tough, though, especially not in fantasy worlds, especially with multiple stores, teams of staff, fulfillment centers, separate workflows. It's a whole lot. But with Shopify's point of sale system, you can do it all without complexity.
Shopify's point of sale system is a unified command center for your retail business. It brings together in-store and online operations, even across 1,000 locations. Imagine being able to guarantee that shopping is just always convenient. Endless aisles, ship to customer, buy online, pick up in store, all made simpler so customers can shop how and where they want, and staff have the tools they need to close the sale every single time.
And let's face it, acquiring new customers, it is expensive. With Shopify's POS, you can keep existing shoppers coming back to your stores with consistent, tailored experiences and first-party data that give marketing teams a competitive edge. Fun fact, Fantasy Fangirls merch store, we use Shopify.
Want more? Check out at shopify.com/FFG, all lowercase, and learn how to create the best retail experiences without complexity. Shopify.com/FFG. It's 1 a.m. and Nesta retires to her room at the River House. I believe this is actually her first time in the room reserved for her at this new house. Nesta's instinct is to reflect how her bedroom is exactly what she would design for herself if she'd been given the chance. But growing and healing and self-aware Nesta reminds herself that she was given the chance, and she refused. I'm going with the theory that Feyre knew precisely what Nesta would like because she used her Daemati powers, and she tapped into Nesta's bedroom interior design taste and replicated it.
Cassian walks into the room with the classic line, "You didn't want to say goodnight," but he pulls out his dick, his small,
and it's a dick in a box,
a dick in a box. But he pulls out a small box from his jacket, and
it's not a small box though, because he has a really big dick.
What was it, the 24-inch circumference?
Oh, I don't have my water bottle to show everybody. Here, this is actually probably more accurate with the circumference.
You would still be dead. That was far more information than I ever needed to know about you. Anyway, Cassian pulls out a small box from his jacket, and Nesta opens up the small silver ball. This small silver ball the size of a chicken egg. God damn it.
Giant hanging balls.
Oh, I'm excited to be back in Imperium. And when she touches the top of this ball, music fills the room because it is a boombox, aka Symphonia. Stop laughing. This Symphonia is a rare device from the Day Court that can trap music inside and play it back. But how did he get this music without any of the background noise? The morning after the ball, Cassian went back to the Hewn City to have the musicians play some of their favorites. And then he went to Nesta's favorite taverns and had them play for it too. It's like a nice little recorder. You know those like recorders from the 90s that I never had because I was a child, but still. It's the perfect present for Nesta, who loves music more than anything in the world, which Nesta knows, and feeling that rising realization of just how much he truly loves her, tears slip from her eyes. Before we get into this fight, though, we have to remember that Nesta does not feel worthy of love, especially of this caliber. After her father admitted to loving her despite her hostile nature towards him, she decided that she deserves nothing good in life, which includes exactly how Cassian is staring at her now. And she knows that if she admitted how she feel that she loves him too, that feeling would consume her entirely. As she says, quote, "No one had ever held such power over me." Nesta feels everything. And that level of empathic emotions is all consuming and makes her feel out of control, something Nesta absolutely hates feeling. And this would be the ultimate out of control feeling because she doesn't understand the mating bond. She doesn't understand this level of love either because she's never felt it before. So Nesta, deciding that she does not deserve this feeling and fearful from what that all-consuming love would do, puts the Symphonia back into Cassian's hand, telling him, "Return it." To which Cassian, showing that he is not perfect, escalating to anger quite quickly, says, "It's a present, not a fucking wedding ring."
And yep, talk about escalating, because Nesta throws in his face that she looks to Eris for the wedding ring. Like Nicole was saying, she is purposefully pushing Cassian away because she does not think she deserves him for how good of a person he is. Meanwhile, Cassian takes her attempt at creating distance between them as her believing she deserves better than a low-born brute like him. Cassian has always struggled with his own self-worth for very different reasons than Nesta, and no matter how high he rises in the ranks, he always considers himself a bastard-born nobody. This is especially glaring when he thinks that Nesta deserves a princeling, or even a king, as he thought while she danced. So as she pushes him away in this moment because she's falling too hard for him, he lays out his entire heart that he cut in while she danced because he was jealous, and it's painfully obvious she should be with someone like Eris instead of him, which it causes Nesta to break, and her truth tumbles out. She deserves a piece of shit like Eris because she is just like him. She hates that she has hurt Cassian, everyone else, and she knows that she does not deserve Cassian because he is too good for her, and that the reason she shoved him away all this time is her punishment to herself. Because from the moment they met, back in ACOSF when she was still a human, he's been all she can think about. And it terrifies her that he has this much power over her, that if she lets herself love someone this fiercely, he'll get taken away from her. Remember how he marches alongside Death and how Death is so prominent for Cassian because he understands he's a soldier. After her declaration, including all of her true feelings and reasonings that we've talked endlessly on this podcast about, silence follows. And I just love this part so much when she looks up and she finds that Cassian has tears streaming down his beautiful, perfect face. She just laid her soul bare for him, and it leaves him truly speechless. And it's something, I don't want to say that he's been waiting for her to hear because he never wants her to be in pain like this, but he is hearing the truth for the very first time. And even though he's kind of known parts of it for sure, here she is, again, just laying her whole soul out for him. And he kisses her tears away. And this scene is just everything. Oh my gosh, this was actually the first time I read it on the page versus audiobook reading. And for me, it was a whole new experience because it was just savoring every line and just being in the moment with these two.
Yeah, same. And the next words completely say it all. Quote, "There will be no one else for either of us. Ever." Oh, after such a vulnerable admission from Nesta, this is Cassian saying, "I see you. I see all of you, the rawest to the most bare, and I choose you." And I believe this is him saying here, "I love you." It's actually basically written on the page exactly that.
And she agrees that there will be no one else ever. And it's all each of them need to hear. This entire book has been building up to this moment. We've seen Cassian and Nesta fight. We've seen them cry. We've seen them be vulnerable. We've seen them be intimate. A lot. But it always is veiled by just sex or friendship or holding out a hand to help or even being a mentor. This here in this moment is two partners, two halves of a whole, two souls sharing their deepest truths and insecurities with one another. And at the end of it, just like it's always been, they are all each other ever wants. And it's time to finally speak that truth into existence.
And they begin their mating consummation. Nowhere in this scene does it say, "You're my mate," like we saw in ACOSF chapter 55. This isn't their normal, wild, carnal sex where he's feasting on her like crazy. It's gentle. Their fingers are trembling as they undress each other. And rather than that feasting level foreplay, Nesta interlaces their fingers with each other and she guides Cassian into her and he kisses her deeply, quote, as he slides home. I love that home language.
I know. It's all over
beautiful.
here. They say home so many times, and it just makes my heart so happy.
On the first thrust, she feels that thing inside her chest beating wildly. On the second thrust, that thing yields entirely to him. And I'm skipping over 3 and 4 because by the fifth, the walls of her inner fortress come down. As if Cassian senses it's crumbling down too, he pulls away, eyes flaring at her. And the thread of pure golden light weaves between them, solidifying. Quote, "For it was music between their souls, always had been, and his voice was her favorite melody." It's so beautiful. Especially with how much music language there is in the scene. We see how much music means to Nesta literally a chapter ago. I just love that parallelism. And also, side note, this yielding to their mate and this glowing thread, we see very similar language in ACOSF chapter 55. One of the things I love about this scene is how we are in the POV of the person who does not consciously know that this is a mating bond solidifying, but you can still feel it in every word of the sentence. They both start crying, and we get the classic, "You're mine and I am yours."
I love how she just innately knows what to say as well.
Yes.
Again, it is their two souls really joining together in a biological way. So, as always with our Silver Flames coverage, we have to ask ourselves, is this sex for plot or sex for spice? I think we have a pretty clear answer on this one. The rule is, I'm making up this rule, anytime the sex involves solidifying a mating bond, it is sex for plot. Full stop. It is fact. This is quite literally the most important bangity bang bang of their entire immortal lives. The way words like home and music jump out and how they're both crying. It's the joining of two souls and it's just beautiful.
And after both of them climaxing at the same time, which is very important, Cassian spilling into her like he's been holding back this entire time, as if his own inner walls also came crumbling down. Those words, forever, linger in the air between them. And side note, I love how they start kissing again, and Cassian's not even out of her before he starts thrusting back into her, and they go again. And after that second round, safe and warm and home at last in each other's arms, the two mates sleep. The next morning, Nesta wakes up still tucked into Cassian's arms, and they bang, bang, bangity bang again. But oh shit, because Cassian's late for a very important date. The snowball fight date, that is. Running to put his pants on, babbling about not having one in years, Cassian rushes out the door with only one thing to tell her. Almost like an afterthought or something he just came up with. After the snowball fight and the steam, he'll need to go to Illyria for a few days. And without even a farewell kiss, he vanishes. I remember reading this for the first time and being livid. I was like, what the fuck? My guy, you're just gone for 5 days? I was so mad. Now it makes sense after reading the scene by the Sidra later, but I was still so mad.
Well, let's talk about that. So Cassian is still wary about Nesta getting used to being Fae and understands she can be skittish with the term mates. That's why he literally doesn't bring it up for several months afterward. That conversation by the Sidra, that's in spring. That is months after this incident here at the winter solstice. The reason he does bring it up is because he realizes she has no idea that they're mates. And yeah, that's true. By acknowledging that they're truly mates, Nesta will feel like she has lost the last bit of her humanity, and she's saying goodbye completely to her old mortal self that she clung to for so long. We learned in ACOSF that after the mating bond is consummated, the two mates are feral for each other. They need intimacy. They need their partner on a whole new level, as Nesta will experience the need for Cassian inside of her while he's away. The frenzy can last a week or even a month, and the two newly mated couple fuck like bunnies. So because he doesn't want to scare Nesta off with this primal mating instinct and the blatant truth that they're mates, Cassian makes up the excuse to be gone for inspections over the next week. He'll share his reasoning later, again, that conversation at the Sidra, by saying, quote, "It was because I woke up the next morning and all I wanted to do was fuck you for a week straight, and I didn't want to scare you. You weren't ready for the truth, not yet." So in this moment, Nesta does know what happened between them was special as she dedicated herself to him, but she doesn't realize the biological and soul-binding transformation that happened. He knows it and doesn't want to scare her off. So he pieces out. How many times do you think he masturbated during his week of inspecting the Illyrian camps?
His hand was just raw. by the end of it.
Fast forward 3 days, and Nesta's body aches with need for Cassian. She might not know why, again, all that, and wonders why in the world she is so extra desperate for him. But we know why. To distract herself, she invites Gwen and Emery for a slumber party at the house. I love how Emery's smirking like she knows why. And not like necessarily that they're mates, but because Cassian's gone, she needs a distraction. And then later on that evening at the house, Emery will be like, yep, he must be good at sex because he's got the walk. Nesta and Emery definitely have that, I'll call it older sisters bond together. Even though Gwen is a few years older than Nesta, Nesta and Emery's minds are more in the gutter, especially with like their romance books, and they have more casual conversations about sex and things like that.
After playing around with the house quite a bit and, having some bubble bath time with, what was it, like?
The birds were in the bubbles.
Yeah.
And the Pegasus and the child, this would be the ultimate slumber party ever. And I just love how I don't want to say take advantage of the house because Nessa was worried about that, but the house is having fun with them too. The house is in on the slumber party as well. And I just love it so much. Oh my goodness.
Gwen didn't know that they'd have this magical house to play with, so she brought an activity. Friendship bracelets with a charm in the middle that when you wish upon, your wish will come true when the bracelet falls off. So the three go into making bracelets for each other. Gwen making Emery's using purple, green, and gold. Nesta making Gwen's using blue, white, and teal. That screams Gwen to me.
Oh, absolutely. All of these do, which I just love so much. Yeah.
It's so good. And Emery making Nesta's with blue, crimson, and silver.
I don't know. Maybe it's a stretch, but that feels like dusk colors to me.
Oh.
Crimson for like that color there. Silver for like the stars and the moon and all of that. And blue for the sky.
Okay, I'll vibe with that. Yeah.
I'm pulling out every little morsel of evidence for this dust court thing.
Emery's bracelet, which Gwen is making, it is the colors of green, purple, and gold, which is Mardi Gras colors.
Purple means justice, green represents faith, and gold represents power.
Now, the act of tying these bracelets might not come as easily to Nesta as it does to Emery and, of course, Gwen, who's been practicing for a while with her sister. But once the three of them make it to the center, they start the process of making their individual wishes. But Nesta gets an idea. Holding the three charms in her hands, she makes a wish for the three of them together. Quote, I wish for us to have the courage to go out into the world when we are ready, but to always be able to find our way back to each other no matter what. And the coins begin to glow. We will later learn that just like Nesta's wish for a friend and making the smart house pat, she wishes here for her friends and she makes the coins with a capital M. Later in the blood rite, the glowing of the coins will be what brings them back together and allows them to find each other.
Nesta reflects how these friends have become like her sisters. Quote, a chosen family like the one Feyre had found for herself. Found family is such a strong theme in the ACOTAR series, first for Feyre and now for Nesta. And while Emery and Gwen have been Nesta's dearest friends for months now, this is recognizing and embracing that they are her sisters. Yes, she loves Feyre and Elaine, and there is certainly baggage with each of them that creates strained relationships, as she reflects as Gwen is speaking of her sister who had passed away, which Nesta definitely feels a lot of camaraderie with, knowing what fate is in store for Feyre in the very near future. With Emery and Gwen, Nesta can simply be Nesta, and they fully accept Nesta as herself. Because of these friends, Nesta has learned so much about herself, her strengths, and how she truly can connect with others. And they have been so central to her own healing journey, and they have been so supportive. And I just love that so much, where she's really recognizing their impact right here. And they're not just her friends, they are her sisters, her chosen sisters.
Nesta even invited them to Winter Solstice with the Inner Circle, which just further cements how close they've all gotten. Even though they weren't able to join because Emery was in Windhaven and Gwen wasn't ready to leave the House of Wind, Nesta is wanting to spend her holiday with her family. I strongly think next Winter Solstice will be at the River House, and it will include Emery and Gwen, and it will also be delicious when it comes to Emery and Moore and Gwen and Azriel all being in the same room together.
Yeah! With all the hustle and bustle of the holidays, it can be hard to remember to take care of ourselves. I know for me, I'm really getting into, we'll call it mom mode with, making a magical Christmas for my children. And with all of that in mind, we know the holiday season can be hectic, which is why we are excited to partner with Apostrophe, the sponsor of this episode, who makes taking care of your skin simple and convenient. convenient. Apostrophe's goal is to help you feel confident in your own skin. Whether you're dealing with breakouts, signs of aging, or acne scarring, Apostrophe will help you love the skin you're in.
Apostrophe is an online platform that connects you with an expert dermatology team to get customized acne treatment for your unique skin. Through Apostrophe, you can get access to oral and topical medications that use clinically proven ingredients to help clear acne. Simply fill out an online consultation about your skin goals and your medical history, then snap a few selfies, and a dermatology provider will create a customized treatment plan just for you. Apostrophe offers access to prescription treatments of all types of acne, from hormonal acne to facial acne, and even back, chest, and butt acne. Treat breakouts from head to toe.
I know for me, especially around this time of year, between the weather changing and the extra stress of the holidays and a lot of rich eating, I get breakouts like crazy. And so I am so happy to have Apostrophe because it is so simple. Like, I don't have to go to any store. It's delivered straight to me, and I know it's exactly what my skin needs. And it's easy to apply. It lasts a really long time, as we've talked about as well. I love it. I love having Apostrophe for the holiday season.
We also have a special deal for our audience. Get your first visit for only $5 at apostrophe.com/FF when you use our code FF. That is a savings of $15. Make me hollers. You can put that towards shopping, by the way. This code is only available to our listeners. To get started, just go to apostrophe.com/FF and click Get Started. Then use our code FF at sign up and you'll get your first visit for only $5. Thank you so much, Apostrophe, for sponsoring this episode.
Let's turn our full attention to foreshadowing important moments in the rest of this book and speculation for what's next in the series. I'll go first. Cassian told Nesta that tensions are particularly high this year leading up to the Blood Rite. Knowing that at least Bellius is under the Crown's influence and there have been Illyrian scouting groups on the continent, is this a subtle clue of the Crown's influence causing extra feuds?
Ooh.
I don't know. Yeah.
I just figured the Illyrians were just getting hypey.
Probably that too.
Mad at each other.
Cassian thinks about how they haven't heard anything about the Crown or from Brialyn. They know it's not over, but they do feel like it's suspicious that Brialyn hasn't come after the trove. We'll learn that during these months, she is biding her time for the Blood Rite.
All the Nesta equals royal foreshadowing from the Court of Nightmares winter solstice. In addition to the two queen mentions, we also get Cassian thinking that, quote, only a king or an emperor would do for someone with that level of skill. And again, quote, this new Nesta might very well send entire courts to their knees, kingdoms. Then, to build off that, Eris mentions how she would be wasted at the Night Court. This is foreshadowing. Just like Elaine's outfit sucking the life from her, this is foreshadowing for that. The two Archeron sisters do not belong here.
By the way, I wonder about Nesta going to the theater and like being one of the performers here in Valaris. We know that Cassian goes to the theater, so she must be really, really skilled. I think also in the sense of like the political game that she's playing too. But anyway, along these same lines, and I know we kind of talked about this, but I really want to hone in on it. Let's shift our foreshadowing focus to Elaine, because it's all over the pages that she doesn't belong in the Night Court and especially does not belong in black. Quote, wearing black, no matter how much she claimed to be part of this court, it sucked the life from her. This feels like a neon sign that she will be in the Spring Court, which is bursting with life and color, or even the Day Court, but I am leaning more and more towards Spring Court with the way Nesta said earlier how Elaine would be perfect there.
Absolutely. Gwen says, looking out the windows, quote, I sometimes wonder if I'd ever have the courage to go out there again. I fear every day that I won't. You will, Gwen, and despite your circumstances, you will kick ass and take names in the Blood Rite, my girl.
While Cassian is gone, Azriel replaces him with training, and he's more aloof than usual, and he won't even smile at Nesta, especially after like that nice moment that they had there at Winter Solstice. Well, we know why from his bonus chapter. Again, friends, we are going to be covering the bonus chapter this coming Thursday. It's going to have its own episode because there's a lot of speculation in it too. So we know that Azriel is in a bad mood in the days that follow because Rhys told him to leave Elaine alone and not follow his heart after her. We'll see his and Gwen's relationship shift a lot in chapter 60, and I'm so excited to talk about it in the episode that's coming out later this week.
And we'll include the Azriel bonus chapter in the show notes so you all can read it in prep for Thursday's bonus episode. But it is time to sip some tea with a Suriel. Every episode, Lexi sits down with a Suriel, sips some tea, and walks us through a world building topic that helps us better understand this world and the people in it.
Today's Suriel topic is, I can't believe it's literally the very last book that we're finally covering this, the Archeron family. Quick fun fact behind the scenes, this was our original first Suriel Teatime when we originally recorded episode 1 of our ACOTAR series. I don't know if everybody knows this, we did record 2 ACOTAR episodes before we decided to switch over and cover Fourth Wing first. So anyway, that's a fun fact there. And then I ended up...
And no, we are never posting those episodes ever.
That line was 13 pages, which is just hilarious. Yeah. For context, they're like 60 pages now. And this Suriel is absolutely longer than the original one. Okay, so the Archeron family used to be a wealthy merchant family until 3 generations of debt caught up with them. They were rich as kings and only cared about money and social standing. Very hoity-toity. Let's start by highlighting what we know about each of the Archeron family members. First up, Papa Archeron. He was called the Prince of Merchants, which he inherited from his father and his father before that. However, this title of wealth was actually a lie because of all their debt. He was a merchant in the maritime trade, trading spices and other riches all around the world, as we all know from Nicole's Spice Watch. When he ended up losing everything, it's speculated that it broke him more than when his wife passed. Speaking of which, now we have Mama Archeron. She was a dazzling social butterfly among her wealthy peers and loved to throw big parties. It's said that she truly loved and respected Papa Archeron too. However, she was cold with her children. She only cared about what others thought about with the family. Feyre reflects that if she had been alive when they lost everything, it would have shattered her more than it did their father. Okay, now let's talk about Nesta, the eldest Archeron daughter. She is 3 years older than her youngest sister, Feyre, and was 22 years old at the start of our ACOTAR series. So now she's 24, maybe even 25. Nesta was, quote, born with a scowl on her face and has been known to be cunning and ruthless. She was always very protective of Elaine and butted heads with her youngest sister, Feyre. Nesta may not be able to sing, but she has a good ear for music and she is a very talented dancer, as we've talked all about this episode. She was her mother's creature, groomed by her to play the political and socialite game. Out of all of Mama Archeron's daughters, Nesta had the best relationship with her mother. Next up is Elaine, the middle Archeron daughter. If Nesta is 3 years older than Feyre, that means Elaine is 1 or 2 years older than their youngest sister. Elaine is the sweetest and most beautiful of the girls. She loves to garden and live a quiet life. Even 8 years of poverty never stripped her of her light. She was the closest to Papa Archeron and considered to be his princess. Lastly, we have Feyre, the youngest Archeron daughter. She was 19 at the beginning of ACOTAR, and she turned 22 this episode. She is the most practical of the Archeron sisters, but her passion is painting. At the start of the series, she could barely read or write, but she certainly has learned now thanks to the most handsome High Lord. Let's talk about their childhood with wealth. Feyre spent most of her childhood in Papa Archeron's offices, intrigued by his goods from his trades. These make up most of her happy memories from her childhood. In her father's office, she learned about trade and these riches, including gems and spices. Nesta, on the other hand, turned her nose up at Feyre's interest in their father's trade, as she focused on her best marriage options. Mama Archeron groomed Nesta to marry for conquest, and only a prince was worthy of her. She would call Nesta her little queen. Meanwhile, their mother said Elaine was pretty enough and would be the one to marry for love and beauty. Nesta, their mother, and even Elaine were adept at social warfare. Mama Archeron made sure Nesta knew how to swim after a cousin drowned and their mother claimed she was murdered by fairies, possibly a Kelpie. The girls were all taught to dance in childhood. Feyre barely remembered the steps, but Nesta was an expert and would even win a duke over in a single waltz. However, their mother neglected their education and did not hire a governess. Elaine and Nesta learned how to read and write well enough, but Feyre never learned enough for it to stick. Someone I haven't mentioned yet is Grandmama, their mother's mother. She believed children should be harshly disciplined for any infraction. There was little room for mercy or understanding. For instance, Nesta was 7 when she was beat with a ruler for missteps in her dancing lessons. Nesta still has a scar on her left thumb from the punishment. Elaine never had the same experiences with Grandmama's tutelage because, again, it was Nesta who was truly held to those high standards. Grandmama died of a deep-rooted cough that turned into a deadly infection. Nesta was relieved when she died. Elaine wept when she died, and Feyre was too young to understand. Mama Archeron died of typhus 11 years before our story began and 3 years before they lost their wealth. Feyre was 8, Nesta was 11, Elaine was somewhere in the middle. On her deathbed, their mother made Feyre vow to protect and care for her family. We still don't quite know why she asked her youngest to, but there is speculation that Feyre was the most practical of all of the sisters, or that her mother was a seer, but we're not getting into theory territory because we are in facts land right now. Nesta blamed Papa Archeron for their mother's death because he did not use his vast resources to find a cure for her, and Nesta visited their mother's grave more often than she cared to admit. In an effort to pay off all his debts, Papa Archeron put all their eggs in one basket. He had 3 ships sail the fastest route to Barat on the continent for invaluable spices and clothes, but this route was a death trap. However, if these ships had gone the long, safer way, it would have taken too long and the creditors were breathing down their necks. Papa Archeron had no time to waste. They lost all their wealth when the ships were caught in a storm and sank. Their creditors came to search their house and take everything. They brutally beat Papa Archeron and shattered his knee beyond repair. Pharaoh was the only one who stayed by his side, begging them to stop, while Nesta and Elaine hid in another room. Nesta's only concern was protecting Elaine. The sole remnant of their former wealth was the enormous ironwood bed the sisters would go on to share. It had been a wedding gift from their father to their mother, and the only other thing that they had to their name was a shabby set of mismatched utensils. With nothing left to their name, the Archerons could no longer live in their old estate or continue with their lifestyle, which brings us to their life in poverty that lasted 8 years. They had to spend most of their remaining money on a healer for their father's ruined leg and a little cottage in a poor village near the wall. They managed to survive on the remains of their fortune for 3 years before all the money ran out. In order to survive starvation, Farah ventured out into the woods and learned how to hunt when she was 14. She became the sole provider for the family with hunting and selling pelts, and it is only because of her that they survived these years of poverty. She was essentially head of the household. All the while, Papa Archeron barely did anything. He barely left the house, he was too ashamed to try and find work, and he mostly sat in front of their fire working on his wood carvings, which he would sell a few of his wood carvings when people took pity on him. He traded one of these carvings to a passing charlatan for ward markings around the threshold of their cottage to protect against fairy harm. Whole lot of good that did him. During these years of poverty, Elaine was the only daughter who really talked to their father, and he doted on her. Meanwhile, Farah wondered if Elaine even fully understood how poor they were. And Farah held a grudge against her father and older sisters for not doing enough, for letting her put herself in danger every single day when she would go out into those woods to hunt. Nesta most certainly hated their father for not fighting for them. She didn't lift a finger because she kept waiting for him to try for their sake. Since their family lost their fortune in Farah's early education years, she never had the opportunity to learn how to read and write. Nesta deemed the village school beneath them, so Farah never went there. Her dream was to someday get her sisters married off, and it would only be her and her father, with enough money to eat and time to paint. And that is all of the Archeron family up until the beginning of ACOTAR. Oh, and we can't forget about Cousin Erston, who lives on the continent and definitely ghosted Nesta when she was trying to get help for them.
Incredible. It's time to close out this ACOTAR only part of the episode with our favorite moments and then move into quite the announcement. But before that, I love the montage of them training and how they train in every type of weather, even getting frost on their shields. It really makes me feel like I can get up at 6 a.m. to go work out. But this actually brings the question to me. Do we know anything about Valhallan's climate? Like, is it cold?
Yes, we do. Valhallan is farthest north on the continent because that is one of the only places that is actually labeled on the map, and it is a mountainous territory. Moore was talking about how it was already knee-deep in snow early in this book when it was barely autumn here in northern Prythian. This is actually convincing me more and more that their territory was close to Valhallan, and Valhallan absorbed it. I know we were talking about that earlier, but this is one more little piece of evidence for that.
It's so in my head canon that that's where the Valkyries are originally from. I don't think that's where they're going to go because they're all solidified on Prythian, but still. I also love how they use this technique as using their shields as springboards to launch their fellow warriors in the air. They also do 10 seconds of full sprinting and then 30 seconds of trotting for 15 minutes straight. Oh my good God. Oh my good God. Makes my Orange Theory classes look like chump changed. We also have Cassian waking up on one winter solstice with a blonde wig and an evergreen garland around his groin like a loincloth. What did he do that night?
That's what I want to know, especially if it was just the 3 Bat Boys. Maybe it was a dare, or they were pretending to be in the theater. I love the fact that Nesta's scent had to be glamored to hide any trace of Cassian, and he's all smug about it when she interacts with Eris. I would be too, Cassian.
We also finally get arguing about sports. During the Inner Circle winter solstice, the group is all arguing over, quote, something that seemed related to a sporting event, including Amryn. Raging sports fan Amryn is back, baby.
Good. I haven't liked her very much lately.
I also love that they don't drink and fly or drink and winnow. That is very responsible, everyone. Good job. And last but not least, I love that Cassian goes to get Nesta peppermint tea while everyone is drinking wine at the winter solstice. As someone who has gone through parts of my life where I haven't drank, when I have something in my hand at a party, it just makes it feel so much easier and less like, oh, is Nicole not drinking or stuff like that? It makes you feel like you're part of a crowd, and that Cassian knows her well enough to make it like not a big deal. Like, it's just so sweet. And how he comes back and he calls her Ness in front of everyone. Oh, I love it. Oh my God. All right, friends, we are about to make an announcement and then move into our Maasverse Madness segment. But first, we have to give a huge welcome to our newest members of the Inner Circle, Kels, Martha B, Bailey O'Connor 09, and Jessica H. Welcome.
We're so glad that you're part of the Patreon party. We appreciate you so much and just thank you so much for your support. And if you're like, hey, I also want my name read off on the podcast and get showered with all the love and support, go ahead and join the Patreon party at patreon.com/Fantasy Fangirls.
Also, just a quick friendly reminder that with the holidays coming up, we here at Fantasy Fangirls are going to take a week break with no new episode coming out on December 30th.
Be sure to get all the Fantasy Fangirls news and extra content and all those goodies on Instagram and TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod.
Also, do not forget to rate and review the podcast. It takes 5 seconds to hit that 5-star rating, to write a little love note in the review section. It means so much to us and for any podcaster that you take the time to do that for.
So before we get into our Maasverse Madness today, which does include spoilers for all of the Crescent City books, we are so excited to announce the book series that we are going to be covering after we finish Onyx Storm in April 2025.
What was deeply important to us as we were picking out our next series was making sure that this book had fabulous world building. I think this book is actually it's like what some of our favorite world building we've ever read. Of course, it's deeply important to us, and specifically me, to have a beautiful romance story. We really wanted to dive deep more into these complex characters, and most of all, to have the style of writing where we can parse through half-written sentences and wonder, what does it mean? And we have decided on Spark of the Everflame from the Kindred's Curse series by Penn Cole. It is phenomenal. We're so excited. We will put the link to the series in the show notes. We cannot wait to start this in April.
We're so excited. And for everybody who guessed any book, we just loved all of the participation, all of the clues that you were finding and all of that. And also, I just want to give a special shout out to our Discord member, Holly, who is the only one who really picked up on every single Kindred's Curse Easter egg. And it was a hill that you were willing to die on. Congratulations, you get a gold star.
We were like same mind. Every single hint that we put down, Holly picked up to a T. Just brava, Holly, brava.
All right, friends. So now with that exciting news all done, let's finish up with our Maasverse Madness. Again, this includes spoilers for House of Flame and Shadow, the 3rd book of the Crescent City series. So if you have not read that book, this is where we part ways. We adore you. Go get excited about Spark of the Everflame, and we will see you on Thursday for Azriel's bonus episode coverage.
All right, I have only 2 very small ones, actually, this episode, which was a relief after last week, which was meaty. During Cassian and Nesta's mating, I was on the hunt for any star language, because if you remember in chapter 55 in our coverage, I found so much star-born language, glowing like a star, flaring like a star, from when Feyre and Rhys's mating bond is solidified. So if you want to listen to that episode, it is episode 9 of our ACOMAF coverage. But the only thing that I could find in this scene was when Nesta talks about the threads glowing between them, quote, life glowed like starfire, and she had never seen anything more beautiful. There's a lot of glowing language, but it's all around the threads and their bonding together. So I do think that that is definitely more what it's leaning towards, but the starfire feels very on the nose. And all of this star language is leaning me further and further down my hill that I'm already willing to die on, that the Archerons are descendants from the Starborn Fae, aka Faea's line in Prythian. And then, last but not least, when I was reading the bonus chapter of Crescent City 3 with Nesta, Azriel, and Bryce all listening to music on Bryce's phone, all I could think about was when Nesta goes back to Cassian and she's telling him all about this, magical device where there's thousands of songs on it, and he's just like, fuck you, Bryce.
I know, right?
Show up my Symphonia. all I can think of.
Me too. All right, friends, that is it for today. Next week, we are covering chapters 60 through 64 of Silver Flames. We're really getting into the home stretch here. And of course, like we mentioned, we will have an episode releasing this Thursday all about Azriel's bonus chapter that has the fandom going, oh my God. And yes, we will be talking a whole lot more about the famous ship battles. Is he going to end up with Elaine or Gwyn?
Thank you so much to our content researcher, Brooke, and our executive producer, aka our sanity manager, Hayden. We truly would not function without you guys. Thank you very much for all you do. And of course, do not forget to share this episode with your fellow Silver Flames friends. If you enjoyed the dance with the 12 spins, can you give us one more dancing emoji, Lexi? Thank you very much. Then please share this episode with that dancing crew.
All right, everyone. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.
The court is decorated with its
Halloween. This
is Halloween. Fun fact, I've actually never seen that movie.
What?
No, I haven't.
You need to come over to my house more often.
Next Thursday. How does that sound?